All right, it is 6:30, so we'll go ahead and get this started tonight. Diana, I think since you're having feedback issues, why don't you just go ahead and record and I'll try to call out the people's names if that works for you.
Okay.
All right. City officials here. I see Jason Popiel is present. See Samantha Walters is present. I see Kathy Catazaro Perry is present. David Maley is present. Are there any other city officials I have not called?
Barb Sylvester.
Bill Bartos, Law Department.
Okay. We're still getting a lot of feedback, Diane. Thank you. All right, as far as council members in attendance this evening, Jill Creamer.
Present.
Mike Gregg.
Present.
Ted Hernkane.
Here.
Ed Lewis. Here. Linda Littman.
Here, Ed.
Megan Sterrett.
Here.
Mark Lombardi, I remembered you.
Here.
Jim Therrett.
Present.
I think that does it for council, but I did see Claudette Eisnick, the president of council, is also present.
Here.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Community development.
I just have one pending piece of legislation. That is the additional rezoning piece of legislation for the Tremont area at Faro Pools. We'll be having a public hearing on that on Tuesday, February 16th at 6 p.m. And then I would hope that we can vote on that night as well as the other piece of legislation that I have pending. We'll be doing the public hearing at the same time for both of those. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Environmental.
Nothing from environmental.
Health and welfare.
Nothing from health and welfare.
Parks and rec.
Nothing for Parks and Recs.
Police and fire.
I have nothing this evening for police and fire.
Public utilities.
Nothing for public utilities.
Rules and courts. You're muted, Mr. Gregg.
Sorry about that. Yes, I do have a new item. A request for legislation. Please prepare legislation to repeal Chapter 121, Council of the Codified Ordinances of Massillon, Ohio, and enacting a new Chapter 121, Council of the Codified Ordinances of Massillon, Ohio, pursuant to Rule 121.02R, Rule 68. These rules may be suspended, altered, repealed, or added to by a majority vote of all the members of council at any regular meeting, per the attached Exhibit A. And the attached Exhibit A are the proposed changes to Rule 18, 18.1, 18.2, and I believe we added Rule 18.3. First, I would ask if Mr. Bartos has any comments or information you'd like to present regarding this.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Oh, good. Okay. Just making sure you
Yes.
hear me.
Yes.
No, at this time, I don't have anything else to add. I know, I took the time to draft the initial version of this and then was out for a bit, and the law director handled I think the discussion at council, which I think I think there was a good amount of discussion prior to this being introduced, and so it looks like much of what I kind of put up for consideration was I guess informally adopted and brought forward for a more formal consideration in the form of an ordinance. And so at this point, I have nothing to add, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Believe this was sent out to all members of council. First of all, members of the Rules and Courts Committee, any questions, comments regarding the legislation? Okay, seeing none. How about other members of council? Any questions or concerns? All right, so given that, I give my verbal. I think we'll include this on the agenda for the next meeting, and we can consider voting on it at that time. So Diane, this is my verbal.
Megan Starrett, verbal.
Kern Kane, verbal.
And that is all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Streets and highways.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one piece of legislation new for streets and highways. You notice on there, it's please prepare legislation to approve the vacation of Penmont Avenue Southeast, an unimproved 40-foot wide right-of-way located south of Forest Avenue Southeast, running in a westerly direction from Candell Street. Request is to vacate that portion approximately 40 feet wide by 383 feet long to the east line of Outlot 953. At its November 10th, 2020 meeting, the City Planning Commission recommended approval of the following vacation request, which includes the replat of the vacated street into adjoining lots 15379 and 15380. The property is currently vacant and is zoned R1 single family residential. There's no emergency language attached to this. And I think there's a little blurry map attached to this so you can see where it is.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, this is Jason. I just want to talk about it real quick. This is on Candell Avenue. Right now, the east side of the road is developed, and that's actually Perry Township, but the city is on the west side. And it's all owned by, I think it's Shomo Properties. They own the entire, they own the entire west side, and they're putting sewer down the street. And as a result, they're going to sell their lots on the west side in the city of Massillon. But there's a paper street there right now that exists, and that's what this is up for you guys to council for. It's called Penmont Avenue, and it's a paper street, so it's never developed. And what they're going to do is split the street into the two adjoining lots on each side. And their intention is to eventually sell the lots for development once the sewer is installed. This went through Planning Commission back in November.
Any questions from council? Just let me, I saw your hand up there. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if, as they are beginning to develop this side of the road, they are not going to be looking for any further variances regarding lot size and or zoning change. Is that accurate?
Yeah, they haven't submitted any other requests or replats. So this is the only thing that they've submitted. So I guess to answer your question, Linda, they no, there is no plan to. I don't, unless they come later in the future. But as of now, they're just going to follow the R1 zoning code.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rowland, can you please go to the participant tab and assign and click on the anyone can share so that there is no sharing permitted.
Can't get to my stuff because it's got everything blocked. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, I did not hear what you said, Miss Rowland.
You're inside of it.
For Lombardi, you're sharing now.
Oh my goodness. Weird.
Mr. Therrett, this is Councilwoman Littman. I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
Thank you,
Please go
sir.
ahead.
I'd like to ask, do we have the Shalamo Properties representative online?
I didn't hear anybody from that organization. Would you like to see if we can get them next time?
Well, I was just curious as to how many homes they were expecting to put in there, and what level or pricing those homes would they would estimate them to be. More curiosity than issue.
Ms. Littman, this is Dave Mealy. I can try to find that out for you.
Thank you, Dave.
I would appreciate that. It'd be nice for council to know.
Mr. Hunke.
Thank you, Mr. Therrett. I'll be abstaining from this matter next week or whenever it comes up, as the company I work for did the plat on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions on this piece? Did Diana give my verbal to put this on the next agenda?
Councilwoman Littman, I give my verbal as well.
And Kramer gives her verbal also.
Thank you.
I just have one other item slightly related. The work that's being done on Wales Road now, the tree removal. I had a couple of residents come to me and express their gratitude for the consideration and the kindness shown them by the crews that are working up there in and around their properties over the last week or so. So hats off to those folks. They're doing a great job. I don't have anything else.
All right, finance. We have one new piece. Please prepare an ordinance to appropriate from the unappropriated balance of the Community Development Fund 1203. The appropriation is needed to expand carryover grant funding from previous years. The funds are appropriated as follows. You can see the list there. It's COVID-19 business loan. That's the CDBG loan. 195,000 left in that account. Clearance, demolition, housing rehabs, downtown street improvements, and fair housing. Who do we have? Is this from Ms. Walters? Are you here to speak to this?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Ed. So every year, because of the way that our program year runs, July 1 to June 30th, we come around this time to council to appropriate our carryover dollars, just because we do not have the full amount of cash from HUD. The auditor certifies that amount. So every year at the end of the calendar year, we have to close out all of our purchase orders and everything, and we reopen everything then at the beginning of the year. So these are the carryover dollars that were not allocated in the city budget. And we just need to appropriate as it shows here to be able to expend these funds for these categories that have already been approved by HUD.
And we would have already seen much of this as well. It just, we had to zero out the accounts for the end of the calendar year. And now we have to reappropriate for the new calendar year, correct?
Yes, correct. This city council has already approved the projects, the action plan and the budget for these activities. So this is just the appropriation.
Ms. Lippman?
May I ask what the clearance demolition line is going to be used for?
I can give you an example of what the rest of that balance was used for this past year. We had 2 collapsing commercial structures that we demolished using that funding. So it's different things. I mean, it could go to something like a house demolition, a commercial building demolition, clearance of any type of unsafe condition, really. So it'll be used for some type of demolition project.
I give my verbal.
Starrett, verbal.
Mike Gregg, verbal.
All right, in old business, we have the giving 50% off to the Massillon City Schools. I do not see Mr. Pedro on, and I know he was working to get some questions answered for us, so I'll make sure to communicate with him this week and have him on next Monday to answer those questions about that we had brought up at the last meeting. Yes, Ms. Lippman.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Pedro did call me this week since I had the few questions from last week. And I'll share that information with you just so that everyone is privy to that same information. I did ask how many Massillon City School employees could potentially be eligible for a 50% discount, and his answer was over 400. So I thought that was pertinent information. I also asked him if they were on the same medical plan or would they have the same benefit with their medical plan if they had a larger number of individuals that would be working out and being healthier. Could that affect their premium? And he said their plan does not work that way. So I'm sure he can give us more detail, but those were the 2 questions that he answered for me this week.
Anyone else? All right, the next piece we have is about putting the renewal levy for streets on the ballot for the primary. I just want to open that up for discussion. If anyone has any comments, concerns, or general discussion that they want to make this evening, feel free to do so. Otherwise, does it come, is it, I think it's coming up for 3rd reading. Look here. 2nd, yeah, it just got 2nd reading, so it's coming up for 3rd reading. So we would have to vote on it this Monday. Is there any additional conversation to be had?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Bill Bartos, Law Department. If members of council didn't have anything, I did just want to comment that had communications with the Stark County Prosecutor's Office and got a positive response on our ballot language. It was also vetted through the Board of Elections, and it turns out that in past instances, a village has used similar language as we're proposing to use, which is straight out of the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Secretary of State's guidebook for ballot questions and issues. So it's nothing that we came out that's out of left field or anything, but just wanted to let you know that it was at least informally we got the thumbs up, and so that's good to have ahead of time, ahead of your vote. And then, of course, once the vote takes place, it will go to the Board of Elections for formal approval, and then we'll be headed down to the Secretary of State for approval as well to go on the ballot. But our requested ballot language at least has passed the first pass the smell test, if you will. I will note, though, that reviewing the ordinance and resolution today, I did note a small procedural, small but significant procedural matter that'll have to be amended in the ordinance. So all the substantive sections will remain the same. Procedurally, though, and some of the more senior members on council will realize this as soon as I state it. Technically, we did not say that we are also repealing Section 181.01 as we're amending it. So just have to add repeal language to go along with the amendment language, because according to the ORC, whenever you amend something, you also have to state that you're repealing it. So small but significant at the same time, procedural matter that will need to be dealt with, but none of the substance you see will change. I'll make sure to prepare that amendment and have it to Diane for distribution prior to the end of this week.
All right, and then we'll propose that amendment. If that amendment is accepted, that would put it back at first reading, but we are on a clock, so we would still want to move forward, suspending rules and casting a vote on Monday.
Exactly, Mr. Chairman. My thoughts exactly. If you pass it on Monday, that still gives us plenty of time to take care of the next step of formalities, which is to send certified copies of the resolution and the ordinance to the Board of Elections prior to the 3rd of February to be then taken through the next phases of the process at the Board of Elections level. And I like having a little bit of wiggle room in there. So yes, if action can be taken still on Monday night, given that this is just a small procedural matter, I would appreciate that, and I'm sure everyone else would as well.
All right. Well, that's all we have for finance. We do have the matter of appointments for the historic preservation. I do want clarification on the Historic Preservation Commission. We do have Margie Vogt, but then we have Jeff Thornsberry. Is it supposed to be Thornsberry or Thornberry? Is someone able to clarify that?
Good evening, Ed. I will double check on that, but I think it's Thornberry. Let me clarify that.
Is he the old athletic director for the high school, lives up on Lennox?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Yeah, I also would say it's Thornberry. There's no S in the middle.
Yes. He's been, I believe he's been on that. I don't have that in front of me and I apologize. But I think he's been on that already and he's a reappointment.
Okay, perfect. And then Park and Rec Board is Ed Greer. Madam Mayor, your other two appointments, when are their terms up?
I don't have that in front of me either, but Ed Greer has served on our Park and Rec Board and he really enjoys it and requested to come back on one more term. And he's done a nice job. He's very supportive of the director. And so that's why you see his name again. He's been very supportive and very good at leading.
And their terms are 2 or 4 years? 2?
I think they're 5.
5. Oh, I was way off. Never mind then. But they're staggered too, correct? Anybody have any questions about any of these appointments? Mr. Lombardi.
Mr. Lewis, I just looked it up. It is Thornberry. There is no S in between the S and the B.
Thank you. Unless someone has an objection, I would assume that maybe this would go under new and miscellaneous business. I don't know if this is really a resolution. This is more of just an accepting. Maybe Miss Rowland, you should look and see how we did it in the past and just place it in the same format.
I believe that the Park and Rec Board is the only one that has to come through council. And for the Historic Preservation Commission, that's only for the member of council that is appointed to the historic. So
Yeah,
for Margie and Jeff, we wouldn't need a resolution, but for Edgar, we
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
this is Mrs. Littman. Could we get a listing of, I have no objection to any of these. I would just like to have a list of the members of the Historic Preservation Commission as well as the Parks and Rec. Could we also get their terms just for informational purposes and for our next meeting?
Madam Mayor, are you able to supply that?
Yes, we can get those for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other business. At this time, we will open up the meeting to public speaks. If there is anyone that is joining us today that would like to address City Council, now will be your time. We will remind you that you have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address. This is not a Q&A session, so you can make your concerns known, and we will do our best to direct you to the appropriate person to be able to answer any questions you may have. Again, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, and the floor is open. Seeing none, that'll bring this meeting to a close. We'll see you all next week, and go Buckeyes.
go Bucks.
Go Buckeyes.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Shout out to the Browns as well.